Welcome to the West Highland Way, Scotland's first and arguably most iconic long-distance trek. A distance of 96 miles with 14,000 feet of climbing, the trail is well suited to people who are looking at the first taste of adventure and seasoned hikers alike. Stretching from the lowlands of Milngavie just outside Glasgow all the way to the outdoor capital of the UK, Fort William. This isn't just a walk, it's a journey through the very soul of the Scottish Highlands. I'm going to take you through every stage from the tranquil shores of Loch Lomond to the vast windswept wilderness of Rannoch Moor and the infamous Devil's Staircase. They say you don't truly know Scotland until you've walked it. Here is an opportunity to journey into the wild, test our resolve and a chance to connect with a land that is rich in history. So here we are on day one of the West Highland Way in Milngavie. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly head down the path, pick up the trail and we'll catch up from there. I'm just going to show you around a little bit of the section around here. So if we look around, there's plenty of coffee shops, some small stores, you've got a Tesco's, there's a co-op nearby. And just here by the obelisk, you'll actually see one of the first points that you can actually fill up your water. And you'll find these along different stages of the trail. So what we'll do is we'll head under the arch and we'll make a start. So we look along the wall here. These are some of the places that we're obviously going to be passing along the trail. Drumgoyne, we'll be going past that today. Conic Hill, next again day. Let's see where else. Ben Lomond, that'll be on our second day. Yeah, so we'll move down, we'll get away from the town and start heading towards Allander Park. So this is one of the strange things, you start this nice section for the trail up in the town, and then you've got to cross this this car park here. Fortunately it's not too far to go. Well, you have a very quick read of that. Hopefully it's clear enough for you. So we're just following the signs as we head towards Allander Park. Now, as we go through the initial sections, it'll be mainly signs just like we've seen, but later on you'll be looking for posts that have the white thistle logo on it, and I'll show you them as we go along. Let's have a wee look here. Isn't that peaceful? And there we go. That's our first thistle. So we started our day in Milngavie reasonably early, about 10 o'clock this morning. Had a bit of a journey to get in here. Just going to talk about that in a wee minute. So the plan today is head towards Drymen. So that's just under the 12-mile mark. Approximately take us maybe 5 to 6 hours to get there. I mean, the early stage or the first day kind of just breaks you into the trail. There isn't overly much elevation. And for some people, they might actually find the first day a bit on the tedious side. For me, yeah, I've done this section. This will be my third time going along it. Yeah, and it's still enjoyable. So, one of the things that you probably realise straight away is Milngavie sounds nothing like it's spelt out. So, one of the questions you're probably going to ask yourself, is this trail for you? Now, I would definitely say, if you're getting into doing a long distance trail, this is certainly one of the best ones you can start on. And I'll explain the reasons to why that is Now the main thing you need to have, probably goes without saying, is a basic level of fitness and ideally some basic navigation skills. Yeah, again, when it comes to the navigation side, I'm going to talk about that as well and try and give you some pointers on that. So we're just in the Allander Park at the moment, and this is your first rise before it starts to level off again. Beautiful. Sun's up, bit of weather than I could expect. So we're just starting to head into Milngavie Park, and you can see there's quite a bit of moorland around us, and that'll soon open up. And now one of the things that you're probably going to be asking yourself when you want to do this trail is how you choose to actually do it, how many days you're going to do it over, and what sort of challenge you want to present yourself. Now I've walked this trail probably, I think it's about 5 years ago. That was my first long distance hike, and I'll tell you now, I did not get it all right. So hopefully you can learn from some of my insights as we go along this trail, and I'll pass that on. But like all things, when you're giving advice, you hike the trail the way you want to hike it. So as you can see, we've got this lovely moorland in front of us. Finally starting to get away from some of the woodland. And there are actually some deer, probably fallow by the looks of it, up on the hill. So if I was to talk a little bit about my own experience doing the West Highland Way, going back then many years ago it seems. You never forget your first long distance trail. Now for me, I was probably a bit fitter back then, and likewise, you know, I was a little bit, I don't know, maybe a little bit arrogant, thought I was over capable of doing what the challenge. So it didn't help that I had someone who had done the trail in 4 days, and that sort of, there was that competitive edge. So I'd been out, doing some training, done some walks, done a few Munros with some weight on my back. So I thought I was reasonably well prepared for doing this trail. You know, from what I'd heard, it wasn't overly taxing, and there was only maybe like one or two sections which may be a bit on the harder side. So I factored in to do it over 5 days, giving myself an extra day, just in case. And I'll be honest, you're doing long days, and I pushed myself far too hard. One of the big mistakes is I carried far too much weight. I mean, I was like a Boy Scout, prepared for every situation, and it's just one of these things you learn over time. There's certain things you can go without. So going on from that, the other thing was footwear. could have changed that. I'll talk about footwear and things like that a little bit later on. So there was a lot of weight getting put on my feet, and because of that, there was a lot of blisters towards the end of the trail. We're going along a lot of hard track, paths and roads, which I wasn't really as used to doing that. So yeah, I didn't get as much out the trail as I probably should have. And I did promise myself a few things, that when I went to go and do it again, one, I'd do it over a longer time period, so I could really properly appreciate it. And likewise, drop some weight and change out my footwear. So we're going to say about planning stages of the trail. But I think while we're on this sort of the easier section, it's a good time to talk about it. I mean, I could do an extra video just on planning and preparation, and that's something you want to hear, even though just talking about equipment and things like that. Drop a comment below and I'll look into doing that. Now, for me, I use, sorry, frog in the throat there. I used Walk the Highland page for my information. I was able to download maps once I had the app installed, and that broke down every day of the trail for me. And I gave a good description of it at the different stages of each day with some pictures to go along with it. Likewise, unlike a lot of the apps that you have now, it's still a non-paid app. So that's one worth checking out, and I'll leave a link in the description section for that as well. Now, other guide things I used were Cicerone guidebook for the West Highland Way, and one of the maps I got from Harvey's. Yet again, I'll put some more descriptions for them down below. So all that helped plan it. Now, one of the things I would say when I'm talking about weight, I took far too much food, and other things I just generally didn't need. And there's no need to be carrying a week's worth of food on you doing this trail, because almost every second day, or 2 days at max, you're going to be going into a town and you can resupply. So on this trail this time, that's exactly what I've done. So as we get towards the end of Craigallon Loch, you'll come across this memorial stone. Basically the hearth represents the fireplaces that used to have here during the Great Depression. So a lot of the young people who are unemployed would come here and basically try and bolster their spirits. And it's, as I said, it just symbolises one of just the many fires they would have had around this area. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about the logistics of just getting to start in Milngavie. Now, most people will come by train. There's 2 train stations that you can use. The one at Glasgow Central and another one at Queen Street. Now, one of the things I actually learnt today is the train from Glasgow Queen Street does not run at the weekend. So you need to actually, from Glasgow Queen Street, get on the train there and head to a stop called Patrick, which is the second stop along. Now, the one from Glasgow Central, that runs throughout the week regardless. So that's just something to keep in mind. So we're just coming into Garadhban. I'm just going to follow on from the conversation about leaving Glasgow. Now, one of the things you might have not looked at is using a baggage transfer service. Now, to basically sum that up is, even from the beginning of the trail, i.e. you could pick up your bags from the station, each day they'll pick it up from wherever you've arranged for your bag to be picked up at the different stages, and they'll drop it off in the afternoon. So there's different ways you can hike this trail, and I know several people who have done it this way. So there's no need to be carrying a heavy backpack unless you're wanting to actually do wild camping. So that's something to bear in mind. The costs for it, just to give you an idea, I did quickly look them up before coming on the trail. You're looking between £60 to £90. But the extra comfort it'll give you on the trail, and if you can afford it, that's why not, you know. So what I'll do is I'll leave in the description a link to one of the baggage transfer services, and you can check out yourself. So as we come into Garadhban, you're going to come across all these log style cabins. Oh, they're fantastic. And likewise there's some benches and areas you can, if you want to have a wee rest. Ideally when I get to the age that I can retire, I'd love to head up north and get myself something like one of these style houses. I like the name of that one, the Shire. Haste you back, and there you go. We're 4 miles in, I'm only 92 to go. So we're just coming off a track, and we're going to have to do a little bit of road walking for a couple of minutes. Fortunately it is a weekend and the road's actually reasonably quiet. So we'll be turning off this road shortly. First of many gates that we'll be going through. We certainly seem to be favoured with the weather today. When I was coming through into Glasgow, rain was, as they would say, was pissing down. So I don't expect to get this. For me, when you leave Garadhban and you get away from basically all the people are out in your parks and things like that, you start to see the hills, and this is when the trail starts for me. It's interesting here, we have this little house. I like to think it's for the children. But as we look out towards the Campsie Fells, now the mountain on the extreme westerly side, that's Dumgoyne, and the one which is more heavily forested right in front of us, that's Dumgoynack. Yeah, this is certainly far more peaceful and less people about. So we're just going round Dumgoyak hill at the moment. It's a nice easy one there to pronounce for you. So distance wise, we still have about 8 miles to get to Drymen. And it seems like that's actually quite a far distance. But once we hit the old railway line, it's generally flat for most part all the way there, except for just the last stage. The old railway line that we're going to be walking along, a lot of people hate this section. There's a lot of gates, it might seem a bit tedious, but there are places along the way that you can stop off and break that journey up and have something to eat. Now the railway itself was created back in the tourism boom when people wanted to go up into the Campsie fells. Likewise, running along the line, you've got water pipe works leading from the loch right into Glasgow to supply it with water. Anyway, we're going to push on a little bit further. But while I'm at it, I'll just remember, as we came down from that small dollhouse, I noticed there's actually a sign there for my campsite very nearby. If you'll take that path to the right. That's a new one on me, I wasn't here the last time. So if you know anything about it, drop a comment down below and I'll certainly probably have to look into that one. As we went, as you've probably just seen in the drone footage that I had up, you see I've zoomed in on some Neolithic stones. There's actually 5 of them, but you can only really see one of them standing up. The other 4 are pretty much on the side. Now these are, well, I reckon it's a case of you got all your different archaeologists have different various opinions of what they are. Some of them think it's something similar to Stonehenge, that was their purpose. Others think it's actually part of a structure. So we're on the, what I reckon is the railway section at the moment, and you'll see all the way along, just to my left, I'm just going to call them shafts. This will be for the water line I was talking about for the pipes. So if we come to this cross section, we'll see Dumgoyne right in front of us there, and to the left hand side you'll see Glengoyne whisky distillery. Now it does have a shop, but if you were wanting to go on a tour, you would need to book in advance to do that. And I also noticed that while we're on this section, it's part of the John Muir Way, a trail that I've actually not done, and one I'll probably have to look at doing in the future. There is an alternative path to get down to the distillery, going past the outer buildings. So we're probably not that far away from, I believe it's the beech tree, and I'm certainly planning to have a bit of a break there before continuing on. It's just going on after 1 o'clock, and I'm very mindful of the fact that when I plan to do this, I was going to use the Loch Highland page where it's broke down into its 8 days, because there's far less daylight. You've got between maybe back of 8 to 4 o'clock where you're going to have sunlight, and I don't see the point of starting a trail 6, 5 o'clock in the morning and it's dark and you're not going to see anything. There's just no point to that. Now as I've been coming along, I've not seen a single hiker at all. Now this is the beginning of February, and actually that surprised me. I would expect there to be more people on the trail. I've been up to Fort William on a few occasions recently, and I've seen a lot of walkers out. So I don't know whether I just struck lucky being a Sunday. But yeah, these are things to keep in mind, because the peak season is from May going through to September. A lot of businesses will only be open during that time period. Some will be open until late October, but that's something when you come to plan you'll need to take into account. Here we are coming up to our first rest stop. Muddy boots are welcome, and you certainly will be getting them along this trail. So here we are. So we've walked about 7 miles according to the sign. And I think I can see a nice wee bench that I'm going to take a wee seat on. It's like a random route to the entrance. As you see, there's plenty of areas that can get set up. Pretty standard fare for food in there. As you go in the entrance, there is actually a small ice cream parlour to your left hand side. I've ate in there before. If you're looking for something like pints and things like that, they only do like draft bottles. Presumably fill up your water there. And that's your lot. Right, we're just going to turn around. I like the wee area that you can actually put your rucksacks in while you go inside. If you go to the other side of the building, it's got a nice sort of green area you can get sat down in. So we're just cutting across the car park, and you'll see the small gate ahead of us. On the opposite side of the road, the railway path will continue. So not long past the beech tree, probably less than a mile, you're going to come up to Turn Up the Beat. Now this is an alternative to the last place, and it's meant to be very good for vegetarians. Now just before we go have a wee look around the shop, I'm going to show you this honesty box. And you can see it's got different items in there. And you'll find some of these along the trail, and obviously it's reliant on you putting said money in the box, which is relevant to what they're asking for, or just a donation in some cases. So it's always handy to have some change on you. And speaking of change, you're also going to want to have change for the campsites that you go on, because a lot of them still use pound coins for things like the washing machines and tumble dryers. I'm having a look at that building right in front of me. Now I can't tell whether that's actually restoration work or whether it's just been designed to look like an old style building, which is in keeping with the rest of the structure around it. Even so, it's quite nice. So other section, we're about 4 miles from Drymen, so not too far to go, and fortunately the paths have been reasonably good in case of mud and things like that. Now, one of the things that's probably a bit off-putting of doing this section is you're right beside a main road. You're fully aware of hearing that traffic. I'm just going to cut through this fence. Oh, can I squeeze through it? Oh, just. Mind there's some barbed wire on that. So we've got our first obstacle on the way, obviously from some storm damage, and we're going to even attempt to go through it. We'll just try and go over it and see how we get on. So we're just going to be pushing on towards Gartness. There's a lovely river down there, a nice bridge crossing it, and there's also another honesty box. And once we get there, that's just basically on the road leading into Drymen. So we'll catch up as we get to Gartness. As you can see, it's starting to get a bit of an overcast side. Going at this rate, we'll probably be in Drymen on the back of 4, coming up to the 3 mile point. And we just need to cross the road here. Mind yourself, it can be quite a busy road. So we're just going into Gartness now. Beautiful little hamlet. The flowers will be nice during the early spring. We're going to walk around to the honesty box. So midway along the hamlet you would come to this honesty box. Now this one usually has like ice cream and cold cans of juice and things like that. But because we're out of the season, there's nothing in place. So a final rest stop before we push into Drymen. Just gone just after 3 o'clock. So yeah, we should be there about 4 as originally planned. We could have been here probably a lot earlier. I did spend a lot of time in the early stages having to do some rewrites with the filming. But yeah, we're probably about maybe half a mile or so away from Drymen campsite. So I think we'll pick up again there. So we are at Drymen campsite, and as you can probably tell, it is closed at this time of year, and we'll not pick up again until, I imagine it'll be April time. I would highly recommend, when dealing with the smaller campsites, that you book well in advance, because these places are very busy, peak season. Here you've got the office for the campsite, so if you are just coming along and you've not pre-booked, hopefully they'll be able to help you out. The main complex, you've got the kitchen area. To the far side, you've got all the shower blocks and toilets, and from recollection the showers are actually quite powerful. And if I was to go directly ahead, this is where you've got the area to get pitched up. Nice green ground up there, and you've also got some pods. Now one of the good things that you have with this campsite, which you don't have with a lot of others, you can actually order takeaways in, and they're reasonably priced as well. Now the cost for here, I reckon it was something like £12.50, I could be wrong. What I'll do is I'll look it up and I'll put a link in the description for you in the video. So we're just on the outskirts of Drymen, and you're going to see this little bridge area here. Now this isn't really obvious, but you can see obviously the sign there, and you follow down that little walkway, you'll see the path goes up. Now where that field is, I'll keep leading you up, and you're going to hear the road before you see it. It'll only take you about a couple of minutes to cross that path. I'm going to be going into Drymen, as I've got accommodation tonight, so we'll catch up as we get into Drymen. So this is where I'm staying, clacking in. So what I'm going to do, I'll get booked in, get to the room, have a show you about, and we'll take things from there. This is a very quick look around. This is a shared bathroom. It's nice and tidy. Good shower there, looks at. There's only 2 rooms up here, and the other one's not even been anyone in it. It's a twin room. This was, keep in mind it's off-peak season. It's £65, which is probably a steal. Certainly need to have some accommodation along this route just so I can get things charged up. Oh well, we've certainly had a good day on the trail. The weather's really held out for us. So what the plan is, tomorrow we'll pick up again in Drymen. We'll have a wee look around all the different facilities and why I would suggest you come here. So gonna get myself a shower, freshen myself up, and probably get myself along to Spa and pick up some knickknacks. One thing what I'll do is at the end of each day I'll upload a map, which is basically a 3D fly through of the route, so we have an idea exactly where we are and when we finish up. Well, until then, I'll speak to you in the morning. Good morning folks, we're going on to day 2 of the West Highland Way, or stage 2 if we go by the guide from the West Highland Way. Now today we're going to be heading to Rowardennan. We've got just approximately about 14 miles or so to do. Obviously we're going to start today heading into the forest, the Garadhban Forest, up to Conic Hill and then down into Balmaha. That'll be our first ports of call. But I want to have a wee look around Drymen, because this is going to be one of your last supply points before heading off to somewhere like Lanark or Tyndrum. So it's well worth coming here. So I'm going to take the camera around and just show you the town. Just going about to back of 8 o'clock in the morning. It's a little bit on the busy side. If you look immediately to the left hand side, you'll see the bus shelter. Now that is a start for another trail, the Rowardennan Way. So what we'll do, we're just going to cross the road and we're going to find out some of the other places where you can get a resupply. So first things first, if you're requiring it, there is a cash machine here. And across the road, it's a nice wee deli there. Pop in, get a coffee. And the place that you'll be getting your supplies is Spa. Now they do nice hot rolls. Yeah, it's quite a good wee shop, but on the pricey side being a Spa, but you kind of expect that. And the last place, as we head up the Stirling Road, is a Drymen Inn. Now that place is open at 9 o'clock this morning, and supposedly you can get a nice full cooked breakfast in there. But as the trail's going to take us about 7 hours or so today, I'm not willing to wait around, so we're just going to press on. So remember that little path I showed you yesterday before heading into Drymen? This is looking down the field from the top of the hill. I thought I'd show you, and that's how short a distance you have to get onto the main road. So we'll just go through and we'll go onto the other side. So I've just come out the gates and this is now us crossing the main road. And it is, yeah, you're taking your life in hand crossing this one. It is very busy. So we got this nice little path going along the road. Gives you a little bit of shelter from the traffic. So when you come to this farmsteading, the path is just ahead of us at the end of this field to the left hand side. There we go. I'll be glad to leave the road behind. I can tell you one thing, having a decent break last night and a rest made a world of difference. Yeah, that early start I had yesterday just travelling through to Glasgow tired me out for what should have been a reasonably easy day on the trail. I've made some slight alterations. I'm not walking with that other t-shirt that I had under my base layer, and I'm keeping this jacket open to let some lovely fresh air in. Oh, it's nice, peaceful just listening to the birds. And fortunately, in this section, going through the woods, before we reach somewhere like Balmaha, it should be reasonably quiet. Just talking about how to be nice and quiet going on in this section. Just met a very nice guy out walking his dogs. When I say his dogs, there's about 6 of them, so he's got his hands full there. So I thought, well, it's quiet. Talk a little bit about equipment. I maybe approached the subject a bit yesterday. So I don't want to go overly generic, but I'm also mindful of the fact a lot of people doing this trail are doing it for the first time. So this will not necessarily be aimed at people who are used to doing long distance hikes. So one of the things I'd probably say is your footwear is probably going to be one of the most important things. You want to be wearing something that's comfy. Even just before coming out of this trail, I had another pair of boots, more traditional style, that I was looking at wearing for it. And I made a decision just before coming out that they probably needed a bit more time to wear in. And I think they were just also quite heavy. Alright for maybe doing a day trek, winter time, but not really suitable for this. So I would go for something myself. When I do my long distance trails, I go for something that's kind of like a hybrid between a more traditional boot and a trainer. Something that's got a nice wide sole, wide toe box, so when you're doing the walks, especially in the first few days, your feet might swell up, so you want that little bit extra room. So I'm just going to pan you around to give you an idea of what I'm wearing. I'm not endorsed by this company in any level, and you can have a wee look. So here's the third choice. You can't see them, I've got my trousers going over the top section. These are the Hoka Kaha 3s, and if you look at them, they've got a very wide toe box, and if I go towards the heel, just to give you that extra support, it's very wide there, and then they're heavily cushioned, which is ideal for doing this sort of trail where you're on hard track, and you get a lot of pressure put on your feet, especially from carrying the heavy loads. Now they also come with very light leather coating on them to give them that sort of protection. A lot of your hiking trainers, you know, they'll tell you they're 100% waterproof, and because they've got all this sort of Gore-Tex and all these other sort of things weaved into them. That's all right for dealing with light showers, maybe going across some streams. But the moment you start going into having to do small river crossings, or even going into sort of boggy marshland, they'll soon start to fail very quickly. So one of the things that made a world of difference to me doing walking was wearing liner socks. Now I wear a particular brand from Bridgend footwear, and you know, they're reasonably cheap, and they help with things like moisture wickering, and also prevent a lot of the abrasion that you get from doing a walk between your foot and the socklet that you're wearing. Now as for socks, myself, that's one of the things I'm quite happy spending a bit of money on. I've used Bridgend socks. They're reasonably good. They're probably one of the more affordable ones. If you're willing to spend a little bit more money, I'll go with something like Darn Tough. But what I've recently been doing, and this is wearing waterproof socks. There's a few reasons to why. One, type of footwear that I'm wearing, you know, you've only got the ankle support on them. It doesn't go all the way up your knee, so there's no way of keeping the water out if you're crossing decent sized streams and things like that. They also offer you a lot of cushioning within your boot, and I just noticed that cut down a lot of the abrasion that I used to get wearing your more traditional woolen socks. Now I'll give you an example. I done the Cape Wrath Trail, which is over 240 miles through some of the worst terrain this country has to offer, and I walked away with that with one small blister at the top of it on one of my toes, and I think that was more due to the fact is some wee bit of grain or something got into it and it was rubbing against it during one of the days. So we're just coming to the end of that path. that we took from the roadside. Now we'll be able to head up the hill. That'll take you towards Aberfoyle. That's part of the Rob Roy Way. I've been on that section before when I was walking the Scottish National Trail. And this is just starting to head into Garadhban Forest. Now one of the other pieces of gear which is probably self-explanatory that you're going to require it when coming to Scotland is you're going to need some degree of waterproof layers to wear. When I done a trail, I had a very cheap set, probably cost me about £20. And you know what? They were nice and light, they'd done the job, so you don't have to go over the top of it. The only thing I would say is, was the sort of gear I now wear. When you're dealing with a day where the rain is pretty much on most of the time, you know, I tend to look for some sort of waterproofs that has vents in it, ones that go along the legs, ones that go near the armpit, just so you can cool off. You do not want to be sweating away, and not just because of obviously the potential odour that comes from that, but it's also the fact that you're losing a lot of moisture. So the last generic tip I'm going to give you, now you'll see when people are doing these sort of trails, they have these waterproof covers for going over your backpack. Now the bits of advice I'll give you on that is, if you go into a lot of your name brand stores, they'll charge you a lot of money for these waterproof covers, and a lot of them are just not very good. They're very lightweight, they'll rip easily, and as the wind catches them, they'll rip even further. So I've found I tend to just have a wee look around on something like Amazon, and you can pick up a decent one for about anything between £10 to £15. And what you're looking for is, yet again, something that's got that thicker material so it doesn't rip, and something that has good quality elastic straps to go on it to hold it in place. None of these wee ties and things, so it's easy to take off if you need to. Anyway, we're going to concentrate now on the trail. I think that's the basic ones now out of the way. So we're coming to another cross junction. Now for those who are not wanting to do section around Conic Hill, this path will take you directly down into Balmaha. So going from the signpost, if we've taken in Conic Hill, it's 3.5 miles, and if we were to head downhill into Balmaha, it's 2.5. So one of the things I probably even should have said before leaving Drymen this morning is the whole thing regarding Conic Hill. You know, a lot of people don't necessarily want to walk it. Some people it's something that's time sensitive, they don't have the time to do it. I know sometimes a lot of pressure put on people doing these trails, that, you know, you've got these purists out there that you must keep exactly to the route. You know, it's up to you. Hike this trail the way you want to do it, you know. But talking about Drymen, if you want to bypass the forest section and Conic Hill, you know, you're going to be walking in forest for most of the day going along Loch Lomond, so you're not going to miss too much. So you can go along the shoreline of Loch Lomond directly from Drymen to Balmaha and just cut out altogether. Now I'm not entirely sure. I think there is a path that goes around Conic Hill before you start the approach up the hill, in which case I'll then try and point that out as well. So as soon as we walk through that gate section where that signpost was, we're walking into a management zone for Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park. Now, this means there are restrictions when it comes to camping and where you pitch your tent. Now, at this time of the year, it's February, we're out with that restriction time. Now, normally it's between the beginning of March going all the way through to, I believe it's the end of September. And the way around this is if there's designated areas where you need to pitch, you're going to have to get a permit for it. Now they're not overly expensive. I'll give you a link to that particular site where you can get them. So you'll get nice views right down by the shoreline, but there are limited places, so book well in advance. Other areas where you can get pitched, they're kind of restricted to being quite near where the bothies are. But as I said, there are guidelines and signs up there to tell you where you can and can't pitch. So we're just going to be leaving Garadhban Forest shortly. This is a nice wee area to get pitched. We're going to move further along the trail and I'm going to show you a better one. So this is our first decent view of Conic Hill, and you can see the path possibly in the distance where the white line's going up. Now I reckon that's probably bags full of stone for erosion control, doing works on the path. Could be wrong, but if you wake up here in the morning, what a view. There is another one a little bit further along, but going back to that forest section where we just came out, I reckon there's maybe about a few other pitch sites in there if you wanted to be less exposed from the moorland. You'd probably get about 5 tents. So you just see that wee bridge I walked over, and you've got a good running stream there, good flow. So as long as you've got a water filter, you'll be able to make use of that. Nice flat area. You'll certainly get a few tents pitched up here, especially if you're walking in a group. But you can see, you know, the whole leave no trace. Things getting abandoned, left behind. And there's some tent poles. And I'd imagine that's a corresponding tent. Looks like an OEX tent. I've got one. It's a very good budget tent, a Flox one. Yeah, sad to see, but when you walk the West Highland Way, you know, not a lot of people are going to show that same level of respect, and the walk gets too much for them, they just start abandoning their gear. So the Conic Hill, if we get lucky, you might actually get a view if the last of that clag clears up. So that last area we were at with the abandoned gear, that was my first day finished there when I was on the West Highland Way. So that was quite a trek. And we'll just carry on along the bridge. If we head up the trail, that'll take us up Conic Hill. And you can see the bags with the stones there, like I thought it probably would be. And if we look just down here, I think that's one of the last areas you can get pitched up before Balmaha. So just before I cross that bridge there, there's an estate track which basically winds around Conic Hill, and that will take you down into Balmaha. So that's your last escape route before going up the hill. Now this particular hill itself, it's not that high, it's about 350 metres at the summit, and it's a nice gradual path once you come out of that gorge. So what we'll do is we'll catch up again once I reach the summit. So this is what it's like walking in the Highlands. You have this grand expectation of trying to reach the summit. It's nice and clear on the ascent, and then suddenly you get this heavy clag where the mountain's basically enshrouded in this mist. So I'm going to push on a little bit further. I'm just actually below where the summit is for Conic Hill. So unless this clears up, I really don't see a point in going up. I'll give it another 5 minutes or so, see if I can find a path that will lead me up and just chance it. I really do want to get the drone up, but as it stands I don't think I'll be even getting clear views with that. So as you can tell, it's rather windy here. Trying my best to try and keep the camera straight. That's something you just first seen there. Just beyond that, you've actually got the true summit of Conic Hill. I didn't go up there far too misty. But the last summit, where I'm on now, just before you head into Balmaha, actually gives you the best views. You can see all the small islands just in front of you. And that's the cloud just starting to come back in. It's far too windy to get the drone up. Just one last quick view before we head down. Oh, this has certainly been worth the hike up. Just seeing the sun come through as well, with the clouds just rolling in. It's absolutely stunning. That's us finally back on the main path. It's actually a little bit tricky coming off that last summit. A lot of loose scree, very wet underfoot. With hindsight, I would have probably taken the path that I came up originally. I knew it was going to be that bad. Wasn't the most graceful of descents. Anyway, back onto this rocky stone path that will lead us down into Balmaha. This is new since I was last here. I think they just started doing the works. Anyway, by the time we get down to Balmaha, I'll be going on just after midday. Perfect time, get in there and get some scran. So we'll just follow the not so much a yellow brick road down into Balmaha. Seems quite endless. It reminds me very much of the path leading up to Ben Nevis. During winter time, if it ices over, it can be exceptionally slippy, as I found out the last time. So there's another alteration since I last was here. Before they used to have one of these kissing gates, and that was an absolute nightmare to try and get through when you had your big backpack on. So I've just had a quick snack. Speaking to one of the owners of the local store there, very nice guy, very friendly. There are actually some camping supplies and things in there, so there's actually another place you can stock up before heading on this long section around Loch Lomond. Now, the gentleman behind me, or the monument to him, is Tom Weir. Now, I remember growing up in the 80s, and I've seen programmes about this guy, and we take it for granted now that you go onto your YouTube and all these different channels, see all these outdoor programs. Back then, there was hardly anything. And this guy here done a lot to promote conservation in the wild areas, and he was a well-known mountain man. And yeah, I guess this is probably one of my earlier inspirations. So just as we leave the Memorial Park, another one of these points where you can refill your water. I'm not sure if there is one in Drymen. I need to go and look into it. I'll probably walk right past it. So just leaving Balmaha, you follow the road around, you'll come to this path. Now this is the official route, which leads you up a small hill before coming back down again. And to be honest, you've already been doing a lot of climbing of hills today. So I'm going to show you an alternative route where you'll actually get better views. So we're just going to go along this road and we'll pick it up. So when you come to the end of the road, you're going to see this sign here. And what we're going to do is you're just going to push ahead and we're going to hug the shoreline of Loch Lomond. Now, a lot of people who will do the West Highland Way on a more regular basis will actually take this trail, because they actually reckon going up by the hill section there isn't much to see because you're quite obviously quite a lot of trees up there. So we'll just push on. Not to worry, this path will rejoin the main path. So there you go. That's the path coming down from the hill. The official path. So when we left Balmaha, I was realised about the halfway stage to Rowardennan. A lot of this section's going to be flat. Not to say there isn't going to be some small hilly areas that we'll need to climb. A lot of it also being forest as well. So we're just going to make pace as best we can. Just going, as I said, it's probably about just going after 1 o'clock. So sun will start going down about 4:30 this afternoon. So still wanting to try and get a reasonably decent pace on. When you're in the woods, it gets darker a lot quicker. Now I'm going to need to decide today where I'm actually going to where I'm going to go make for a buffet, where I'm going to try and get myself pitched up somewhere. So there's nowhere open at Rowardennan, bunkhouse wide at this time of year. So just arrived at Milngavie car park, and you'll see there is a toilet block. Immediately as you go in, you'll actually see there's a drinking water tap which you can top up on. So this is the first of the campsites you come to, Milngavie. Probably pronounced it butchering that name, I know it. But yet again, at this time of year, they're closed. Oh. So I had a first wee incline there coming up into the forest. It's nice to be single track. Surprising, day 2, and I've yet to see any other hikers with backpacks on, or anyone even doing the West Highland Way. Some nice little seats there. I've got a Cashel campsite there. As like most other campsites, it is closed at this time of year. So just having a look at that wee notice board there for the campsite, and it's got a small shop. One of the things that I did actually put on it was talking about blister plasters. Now that's one of the things that I would actually suggest you do put in your small first aid kit. I use Compeed. Reason why, unlike most blister plasters, Compeed actually provides a cushioning around the blister so it doesn't aggravate it and just lets it come down naturally. So make sure you have at least 2 to 3 of the medium size, just to cover your ankles or any sore spots on your feet. And more importantly, if you've never used them before, don't try and rip them off. Get them in a hot basin of water, or when you're in the showers, and just let them come off naturally. So we're just coming into this Lochie camping area. Yet again, this is one of the areas which is under management control for pitching your tents. At this time of year for me, it's not so much of a concern. But if you look at the chart here, you can see all the different sort of pitch areas, and it does give you information to where to get a permit. Just left Slochy. Yeah, hardly anyone about. Not too surprising. I did notice that there are actually some areas you can get pitched up, which are not in the designated pitch zones. So that's something maybe to keep in mind. But this should be hopefully our last climb before going into Rowardennan. And since it's coming up to, I think we must be getting up to just after 4 o'clock. We still need to find somewhere to get pitched up. So I'm quite happy for the day to sort of be coming to a close soon. So a very interesting wee building there. Very nice green area there, but clearly it's private, so we'll be moving on. So just coming towards Rowardennan Hotel. Now here they have bunkhouses, which is what most people would actually use if they're going to be resting up at this section. And you can clearly see that the place is closed. I'd be more than happy to have a wee room in there and a nice full cooked breakfast in the morning. But we're going to push on and try and find somewhere nearby to get pitched up. Time wise it's just going 5 o'clock and you can see it's now starting to get a lot darker. Took a little bit longer getting here than I planned. Spent too much time really filming. So that's us coming to the end of day 2. We made it to Rowardennan. I literally just got pitched up, maybe 5 minutes walk from there. It's a nice green area, just within, I imagine it's a campsite. I can't really see, it's starting to get a bit dark outside. Yeah, so today's the trail, it's definitely the warm up for what we have tomorrow. This, believe it or not, has actually been the easier section. Tomorrow we've got roughly about the same distance to do again, and I'll then decide whether to head all the way to Beinglas or whether to go and stay in one of the bothies for the night, which is nearby. But that's a problem for tomorrow, and as soon as we've got the sun up, I'll show you around the tent and what sort of setup I have. But it's a little bit on the dark side for doing that now. Good morning folks, that's us going on to day 3. It has been an exceptionally wet and windy evening. It took me a wee while to actually get to sleep last night. But nice and cosy at the moment, which makes it all the harder to get up. But we need to start getting stuff packed away. It's going on just about 7:30, so it's a bit of a later start than really would like. But there's no point in getting out until at least there's some light there, so I can actually show you what's going on. I'll have a wee look around the tent in the meantime, and then we'll catch up again. So we'll just have a look at the sleep system that I'm using. Under here, I've got Sea Summit Extreme Ether Light, which has an R value of I think about 6.8. There's a new version of that which is out, which is a lot lighter, and I think even has a higher R value. Sea Summit pillow, can't mind exactly what type it is. And you've also got your climate cover, which goes over it and quite nicely holds your pillow in place. And it's just a lot nicer to sleep on rather than being on the mat. As for the sleeping bag, you've already seen that is a Spark 9 degrees. Well, it says -9 on it, but comfort rating's probably about -3. So reasonably enough for these conditions. A heavier sleeper bag. I did have actually my Rabbit Scent 900, which I was going to bring, but I just didn't have the room for it. So we're just in the car park, just past the Rowardennan hotel. This is a tent. It's an Optimus X-Mid Light. It is a 4-season tent. Probably not on par with some of like your Hilleberg Solos and tents like that. But for a budget tent, it cost me £300, and I've taken it in some of the worst conditions, and it certainly does hold up in strong winds. And I also like this. In here you've got this little pouch there, it weighs nothing. You can store your gear in there and keep it dry. Yeah, so all in all, very nice tent, and very easy to set up. Weight wise, I think it's about just over the 1.7. So not the lightest tent for backpacking, but compared to other 4-season tents, it's exceptionally light. So this is what I got to wake up to this morning. And as you can probably agree, it's absolutely stunning, especially with the mist in the background. Very dramatic. So we're now on to day 3 or stage 3. Now this is meant to be the hardest section of doing the West Highland Way. And you can manage to get through this, you'll manage the rest of it. And distance wise today, we're actually about the same as we were yesterday, 14 miles. But keep in mind, when doing this section, it's going to be far more challenging, the terrain that we're going to be tackling. So at 14 miles, it's going to start feeling like 21 miles. And this is where I went wrong when I done my first attempt at doing the West Highland Way. I did not take into account how bad this section would be. You'll see a few video shots of some challenging scrambles, but it gives you no insight to actually how long it lasts. So breaking it down into 2 stages going along the loch would certainly be the advice I would give, just so you get the most out of it and you don't come back like I did when I was absolutely shattered when I got towards the end of the loch. I mean, I had walked in from the other side of Conic hill, and that was just far too much to do in one day. But it's like one of these things, you learn as you go along. So here we are at the fanciest honesty box, Ben's Bakes. And I'll put my walking sticks down and we'll have a real look and see what we have inside. Yeah, even at this time of year I'm surprised it's absolutely stacked. But you'll still have a lot of people going up Ben Lomond, so they'll be likely using this area as well. So I'm going to put my gear down and I'm going to come back and purchase a few items. So I thought I'd just chill here for 5 minutes or so. Yeah, in the honesty box there's actually a QR code you can use to pay by PayPal. I did try to use it, it wasn't working, so put some notes and a few coins in to cover my costs. Got myself a millionaire piece of shortbread, a couple of cans of juice, some treats for later on, and I'll make use of the bin while I'm here as well. But it's always advisable to have some coins on you and a few notes. The prices can be a bit expensive in honesty boxes, but then again, you know, they're supplying a pretty good service. There used to actually be a lot more of them along the trail, but a lot of them closed down because, not surprisingly, not everyone was very honest when it came to paying. So trying to support these small businesses as you go along. So we're just leaving the honesty box, and this is very peaceful, just going along this section here on this sort of estate track. So from where we are there, it was saying we still had 68 miles to go to get to Fort William. So we're starting to get the miles crunched. Now, one of the things I actually noticed in the honesty box is they actually had these wee packs, the hand warmers that you can get. Now, usually you think they're just for, as the intended purpose for warming your hands. You can use them actually for drying out your boots if they get wet. You can even use them for your socks if they get damp. So they're multi-rolled. So one of the other things I thought I'd discuss before I totally forget about it is very relevant to doing this trail or walking in the Highlands is the insects you'll come across. Now most people have heard of probably midges, the wee beasties that they are. Now during the winter months they're not so bad, but if you're hiking during the peak season, you know, going from any time from April onwards, you know, you're going to have these wee flies and they swarm and you'll get nasty little bites off you. They're more irritant, they won't go down quickly enough. So there are things you can do. One, get yourself a wee mesh net to go over your head. You can also get the ones for your hands as well. Another one is to put on some insect repellent. Now one that you use up here in Scotland quite often is Smidge, and you can pick that up on Amazon. Now the other thing that you're going to keep in mind with midges, they're more active first thing in the morning and later in the evening. They don't particularly like extreme sunlight. But if it's going to be damp during the course of the day, or dreek as we like to say, you know, when it's just wet, they can be out for most of the day. And when you're going to pitch your tent, as much as it's nice to be down by the shore or by a nice wee riverbed, these are the areas where you'll tend to find the midges. So that's something you might keep in mind as well. Now the one that actually gives me the most concern are ticks. This is another insect, and these are the ones that can actually give you Lyme disease, and there's not much you can do to repel them. I mean, these little creatures will actually bury deep down into your skin, and you can only remove them usually using, you know, special sort of tools to get them. So what I suggest is, before going on the trail, watch a wee video on YouTube which explains how to remove them safely, and always make sure that you've got some antibacterial wipes or antiseptic cream on you, so when you do get bitten you remove them, put that on pretty much straight away. So this is the first point in the trail where you have a choice that lies before you. Now if I was to go down the hill taking the lower path, I'm going to do a lot more scrambling, it's going to be far more technical, and likewise it's going to take more time. Or I can take the high path, which is a lot of elevation, but you're on good estate track all the way around. Now it doesn't matter what path you take, they both join up later on. Now if you take the higher path, you know you're still going to have a lot of technical scrambling to do once you get past Inversnaid Hotel. So I'd imagine you're going to want me to take the lower path, take the harder route. So let's make a start. So I've literally just come down the hill, and immediately to my left you'll see is another area you can get pitched up, and just in the far distance you'll see another area as well. So there seems to be quite a lot of actually nice pitch areas. That one just below me, you know, that's fantastic. It's a wee path leading down to the shoreline. So about the third way through this lower path, and to be honest, so far it's not been too bad. A lot of very narrow track, very wet underfoot, especially with the autumn fall leaves. So I'm just really having to watch what I'm doing. I don't think it really matters what time of year you do this section, it's always going to be wet and damp underfoot. That's just the nature of this particular land. But compared to the upper path, which I've done before, this is certainly far more enjoyable. Because when you're having to focus on what you're doing, you're not paying so much attention to the sort of distance you're trying to cover. So So I just found this amazing pitch site. Got some nice logs to sit on. I'll just pan the camera around. Look at that view in the distance. Taking a wee snapshot of the map so I can actually put a good reference for it. So coming along this section, I will say there's a comparison between this and the high path. There's a lot more places that you can get pitched up. It certainly is a lot of staircases, small bridges that you need to cross, but I hate to imagine what it would be like without them. And the sort of work that goes into sort of maintaining these paths, something to really actually appreciate. But we're getting close towards the end of taking a lower path, and we'll soon be rejoining the main path. This is more like it. Do this right to the end of the loch. That'd be really nice. But here we go. This is nice. Feels far less enclosed. You've also got the change in vegetation, different type of trees, nice sort of green foliage. Look here, there's an old croft, and as you can see, it's starting to be reclaimed by nature. And imagine that all these trees, the new plantation, wouldn't have been here back in the time when this was in use. So where you've seen that old croft, immediately just after it, I'm going to take this wee turn in here, come off the path, and this is one of the first bothies you can actually stay on along this section. There's another abandoned dwelling there. Must have been a small community that lived in this section. So this will be an MBA bothy. Right, let's have a wee look inside. So just went in the bothy. There was a lovely couple in there, just away from a quick sort of getaway from the town. They actually walked in all the way from Balmaha. So they actually had quite a long stretch last night, walking in the dark. Unfortunately, didn't have any torches or headlights. That must have been pretty challenging for them. But didn't spend too much time in there filming. I asked for permission when I was in there just to do quick shots that I'd done. But yeah, it's a nice wee getaway location. But obviously, as you go into peak season, these places will get a lot busier. You will get some of these bothies. They give you sort of a prior warning. At weekends, people will go in there and they'll use them, they'll bring their drinks, they'll bring their music. Now if you're happy with that sort of scene, that's fine, you know, and you can enjoy that sort of company. But if you've done a long day walking and you're tired and you really just want to get your head down, last thing you want is people playing music until about the early hours of the morning. So just be aware. The next bothy we're going to is far more secluded, and you will not have that. So there's a high path, and that's the path that takes you down to the bothy. And you're about no more than a 5-minute walk to get to it. Now we're on our way down the track to the Inversnaid Hotel. So just following on from that wee conversation I was having with that couple. A couple of pieces of gear you might want to try and invest on. One I would say should be pretty much mandatory, and that's a head torch. Now you can pick up some really lightweight ones, which are not overly expensive. And then the next thing to complement that, and for the rest of your electronic gear that you'll be carrying with you, because most people are probably just using their mobile phone and an app for navigating, but you're going to want to have some sort of power pack. And again, you can pick up some lightweight ones, which are not overly expensive. They range anything from £30 for, you know, your mid-range ones, going up to £50 or £60. The more expensive ones come with what we class as a degree of shielding against the cold. Because this is a thing that a lot of people don't realise. Once the temperature starts dropping, your battery life on your electronic devices will also drop far quicker. So having a power pack is a good idea. So I've just come off path here and you'll see this lovely fish site just down there. This is where another one of the trails sets off from. Most people will get probably the ferry across towards the Inversnaid hotel before it's empty on this one. I'll bookmark this one for a later point in time. So we've arrived at the Inversnaid hotel. We've just seen that beautiful waterfall. It's going on 1 o'clock and that's been a reasonably hard push coming along that last section. Not because it's so technical, just for the sheer length of it. So once we get to this stage, this is actually now starting to go into the hard part. So fortunately it doesn't last overly long, but it will seem like it does, because even at this stage you feel like you've done a full day's walk. So they've got a water tap there, and if you were to go into the walker's park when it was open, you can get a nice hot coffee or a hot roll, whatever it is to get you going. I do believe they actually have bunkhouses here. That's something I've not looked into. I think that's something I'll keep in mind for a future expedition. But in the meantime, I think we need to try and crunch a few more miles in. So we're going to start going through these bouldery sections. And this is what actually slows you down. Especially when the rock's wet underfoot and you have to really watch your balance. So even just leaving the hotel, just to get where I am at the moment. Yeah, a lot of scrambling. Really need to watch what you do on them rocks. I thought I'd take a 5-minute break. This is a beautiful wee location here. And from here you can actually see the end of the loch. And you trick yourself into believing it's actually not far. But I can assure you, you've still got a long way to go. So whilst I'm going along this section, one of the things I'm actually looking for is some native wild goats. I'll put a picture of them on screen. Apparently they have a very strong odour, and you can actually smell them before you see them. I don't know whether that's been hiked up or not. Yet to come across them. Last time I'd done this section, it was pitch black. Now I was having to use the head torch. Oh, just. So we're heading towards Loonbaya, and there is another MBA bothy there. There's a possibility I might stay there, but I reckon
since I'm doing quite well, been pushing reasonably hard to make the best of daylight that I have. It's just going after 2 now. I should be there in the next, hopefully, 40 minutes. So that still gives me about an hour and a half to push towards Inversnaid and head for the Beinglas campsite, which I know will be closed. But if there's any camp wardens about, might be able to speak to them and see if I can actually get pitched up there. Remains of another old croft behind me. I can just see the mountainside. It's nice to actually be out and open. As much as I've enjoyed that little section, you know, it does take it out of you. It doesn't matter whether you're an experienced hiker or someone starting out for the first time. It is hard going. I would say though, if you're doing it during the sort of, you know, the sort of peak time period, the one thing is you're going to have a lot more daylight to play around with. You don't need to push yourself so hard. Look at these steps. Oh. So you'll be glad to know, once you get to this point, that's the worst of it behind you. And if you're absolutely shattered, right in front of me, following this little path down, is a nice green area, and that's somewhere you can get pitched up. It's an alternative to going to the Boffey. Well, that feels good to get that section out of the way. I'm not gonna lie, that was still hard going, even doing it a second time round. So fortunately now we're on a reasonably nice path, at least for a small section of it anyway. Last time I came along here, this was absolutely flooded. So I don't know what it'll be like a little bit further on, but we'll see. And we're only a short walk away now from the Boffey as well. So I fully intend on having a break before making the last leg in. It's certainly one of the moments to just take time and look back. And it's the building on the far right is the Boffey we're heading to. Here we are. Oh well, we'll proceed in. Where you look around. Oh. A little bit dark, but you can see the pallets you can get sat on. Someone's obviously on a day hike, there's some clothes up there getting dried. Very nice wee Boffey. That was nice and cosy in the Boffey. It's hard pressed to leave it. It would have been actually quite nice to actually got my tent up there and dried it out. But we're going to move on. It's just gone before 4 o'clock. So it just gives me over an hour to try and get down to Beinglas campsite. But I've got a bit of a rise first. Once that's done, we're pretty much downhill on good path. So I should be able to make reasonably quick headway on that. So day three's finally come to a close, and it's been a roller coaster of a ride. We got to Beinglas and it started to teem down with rain, pretty much the same as it did yesterday. Got there at the back of 5, already dark, I'd put the head torch on for the last section. So what I'll do tomorrow is going to be a far easier trek that we have, and I reckon I'll just sign off today and we'll pick up again tomorrow and I'll show you around the campsite.